Hi, I'm EXO, and today I'm proud to announce the release of eXoScummVM version 2.8.0. Now, those of you who follow the project are aware it's been a while since we've done a ScummVM release. You might have noticed that other projects that followed ScummVM have not released anything lately either. There's been several other projects that have either disappeared or just stopped updating. And I can't blame them. It is difficult to do a ScummVM project these days. I'm going to start by discussing the history of ScummVM a little bit. If you want to get just to the release information, check the time codes below in the description. Now, ScummVM started as a implemented emulator, whereas DOSBox creates the entire PC and emulates the computer, and then the software runs on that emulated machine. ScummVM does not emulate the machine. ScummVM takes the code, re-implements it through reverse engineering in most cases, but sometimes through the actual source code, which is provided to them by the rights holder. And it reinterprets that code on a modern machine. So they're doing things very differently. Now, it's called Scum because the original LucasArts engine was called Scum, and that was the one that they used for like Zack McCracken, Maniac Mansion, Monkey Island. It was a chance to take the parser-based way of doing things and make it more visual. Maybe integrate the mouse. With the Scum engine, you could click on a list of verbs that were down in the bottom left corner, and then you could click on an item, and you could click on a thing. So you could hit open door. Use chicken with a pulley on the wire. So you kind of built a sentence using the verbs, the objects, nouns, and the environment. The VM part of ScummVM means a virtual machine. So they were virtually running these old Scum games. And the reason it was Scum was because that was the games it was first focused on, the original LucasArts games. Now, the reason I take time to point that out is ScummVM has come a long way since those days. In the past decade, not even 10 years ago, they had multiple other engines that were not Scum by that point. But the past decade particularly, they have exploded. In the beginning, they were focused 100% on adventure games. These days, you can find RPGs in ScummVM. You can find visual novels. You can find even some action shooters are in there at this point. That's a positive thing. The negative thing is each engine is maintained by a separate developer. And that means each developer has different standards or methodologies for doing things. Whereas one guy might be very meticulous and he only submits his updated code when it works. There can be another guy who says, well, I've got it to recognize 1,000 games now that are all text adventures, and I'll just upload that, and then I'll slowly go through and one by one make these games work. And so you end up with these code branches that are being submitted to ScummVM that recognize thousands of games, but they're not playable. To put this into perspective, my last release of Scum had a little over 300 games in it. I think it was about 380. Now I'm at like 534. That's almost double in size, and it doesn't come close to the 11,000 games that the ScummVM executable can actually detect these days. 11,000 games, up from what used to be 300 or 400. That's massive. But most of them don't work. Most of them it will identify, and then they crash, they don't do anything, there's all kinds of issues with them. So at that point, it becomes questionable. Is it beneficial to have ScummVM have all these target IDs added to its database, and when it can't even play the games that it has a target ID for? It does make it very difficult to create a collection for ScummVM when you export this target ID list and you're getting 11,000 entries. And you have to figure out which of those 11,000 actually work. So I bring that up to point out that we have focused on the commercial releases that we have found 100% work, and that ScummVM themselves have advertised will now work with their system. ScummVM has an odd list. They will list a random, director game that was released in Japan that has some demos on it. and say, we now support this 100%. And it's not any better or worse than a dozen other director games that work maybe just as well, if not better, but actually are games and not random flashing demos on the screen. So it's hard to tell, even using the ScummVM list, what we should or shouldn't be focusing on. With all that said, the 534 games we have now, that's a count of unique titles, not total number of games. As you see here, I'm going to flip over to my folder here. You can see that when we drop into the eXoScummVM folder, we have the 534 games here, and anything that says like Windows or CD-DOS, that is just that game. But if it says multi-platform, then when you go inside that folder, you're going to get options. Here you can see we have the DOS, Mac, and iOS versions of 7th Guest. There are some games like Secret of Monkey Island that have a lot. We have the Amiga, the Atari, the CD-DOS, EGA, VGA, the Macintosh, FM Towns, and Sega CD. And even that doesn't fully capture the number of options you get when you launch it. For example, you also can play the floppy DOS CGA version. We just didn't need a whole folder for that because we can change an option to get it to come out. You get the ultimate talkie version is in here. You've got, if you go to the VGA one, CD. You've got the original CD music, the special edition music, the talkie version of it with either special edition or original. It's really impressive how many options we have, and a lot of that credit goes to Python. Python is the VP of preservation over at the Exodus project. Basically, he's the only other guy that adds things directly to the projects with me, and he has done a lot of work on the ScummVM project, so a lot of thanks goes to him for this release, especially when it comes to testing all these games against the version of ScummVM that we have to use to get them to work. You can't just grab the latest stable for a lot of these games. It just won't recognize them. Now, if you want to get the project, where do you go? RetroExo.com will get you there. Let's back up here. You're going to see my old computer I grew up with, my AT&T 6300, or a picture of what one would have looked like. Mine happened to melt in a fire. It's long gone. One day, I hope to find another one and recreate my old menu systems I had using Wonder Plus. But in the meantime, you click on the picture of my AT&T, and you will find yourself at my main menu. You can see a list of my projects here. Now, don't ignore all this. This tells you the date that the project was released. It tells you the size of the project. So eXoScummVM is 212 gigabytes, and it came out on February 14th of this year. When you click on eXoScummVM, you'll be taken to the landing page. You can see we have 534 games, unique games in it. You got your brief description of the pack, and you have your button to download it via torrent. That is the only way to get my projects officially. They get uploaded other places sometimes. That's fine. I put a few of them up on private trackers. Unfortunately, some people don't like torrent. I don't know what to tell you. I've been using it for 15 years. It's never bothered me. I've never had, anything. I'm careful what I download. And I guarantee you I would not put a project up that has any kind of malware in it. So if you're leery about it because it's a torrent file, feel free to drop into the Discord and talk to the hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have already downloaded my projects and have no problem at all. Once you've downloaded it, you will be in a folder that looks like this, but not expanded yet. And your only folders will be content, exo, you'll have your text file, and you'll have your setup file. Run that setup file, follow a few prompts. It'll ask you a couple of easy questions, nothing hard. And when it's totally done, you can click Launchbox to start it up. And when you do, you will end up with a screen that looks a lot like this. What you're seeing here is your platform category. That's my default view that I distribute with. You'll notice here you have ScummVM, and below it is ScummVM SVN. These are the daily build games, the games that are not stable yet. You can play them. Some you can get all the way through. Some you can't. Some you can't play, like Backyard Basketball. You can get to the whole menu system, but when you actually start a game, there are no players on the court. Once you're in, just like every other project that I've put out, you can right-click a game to see extras. Thank you to Timber's plugin. You can listen to music if I've got it uploaded. If there's a manual, you can go down to Media, view the manual, and it'll pop the manual open for you. What extras do we have here? We got, there is a souped up version of 11th Hour that's been added. It's a fan creation. When you start this game, you'll be asked if you want the souped up version or the regular version. If you have, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about how to use Launchbox and my projects because I've covered it so many times before in my other videos. So I'm going to keep focused on ScummVM here. You'll see an audio and a literature category. That's okay. That's not a bug that they're empty. Those are there because if you merge all my projects together, these get populated. I'm using a universal platforms file now. If you don't want it there, you can right click on it and delete it. No problem, it won't hurt you. But it's there in case you have Exodus with the media add-on pack. In which case, literature now has books, catalogs, magazines, audio's got soundtracks in it. With all that said, the rest of it is pretty straightforward. We always have a representation of the project as the first entry. If you right click on it and go to Media Manual, it will bring up the .txt file that's in the main folder, Manual. If you go to Additional Applications, you can check the version of ScummVM that you're currently running. You'll see, we've got 2.8.0. And that, we did that on purpose because people were asking, well, I don't know what version I have. And so now you can check. Or you can hit check for update, and it will go out online. It'll see if there's an update, and it will run it for you if there is one. Now, I do plan on releasing annual versions of the eXoScummVM collection to coincide with the release of the official stable versions of ScummVM. So next would probably be 2.8.1. When 2.8.1 comes out, we will release a new updated version of the project with all the games that have been added since then. The updater is something that allows us to fix any little bugs we find between now and then, so you don't have to wait. That covers the basics of everything. If we scroll through here real quick, we can highlight a couple games that have been added that are worth checking out. The Alice game uses the Director engine. Really unique. Comes out of Japan. You can see Toshiba published it. It's kind of creepy. Kind of odd. It has that early Myst feel where things are early 3D rendered, so they're not really textured yet. A lot of untextured things or simple shadows and lights. It's somewhat nostalgic for me since I grew up through that. As we go through here, we're also going to find things like Blade Runner. Really amazing game. Probably the best way to play it. Blazing Dragons has been added. This was a PlayStation-only adventure game. You can see here Terry Jones from Monty Python, Cheech Marin from Cheech and Chong had done voices in it. It's very comparable to Discworld, but it was only released on the PlayStation. And it's not fun to play a adventure game on the PlayStation. I can tell you from first-hand experience, as I own Blazing Dragons, and that's how I played it when it came out. For that matter, I played Discworld 1 on the PlayStation when it came out. And to play a point-and-click adventure with a controller instead of a mouse is that's a special kind of hell. You got Clandestiny has been added. This is made by the same people who did 7th Guest and 11th Hour, but it is more of a same style of game, but easier for a younger audience, or just for people that get tired of the shenanigans that take place within 7th Guest. The Dark Eye is a absolutely gorgeous game. It's based on the work of Edgar Allan Poe. It uses a claymation stop motion. It's eerie and it's creepy. It's in my Windows 3X pack, but it gets overlooked a lot. So I'm really excited to see it here, where it can get a lot more attention. I highly recommend The Dark Eye. If you got 25, 30 minutes to spare, play A Date in the Park. Don't read anything about it. Just try it. I played it while I was setting this up. I don't know why. I just decided to. And even 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I still find myself thinking about it here and there. It's a unique game. It's worth the time. It's worth the 20 minutes, 25 minutes it takes to get through it, I think. Eastern Mine is a really strange meditative adventure game that was added. You can see these are the RPGs that I was mentioning. Escape from Hell, which is a DOS game. Eye of the Beholder, Eye of the Beholder 2. So crazy to me that these are now part of the ScummVM pack. We keep on going down here. Full Pipe's always been interesting to me. It is a Russian developed game, I believe. I might be wrong about that. But the style reminds me of the old, like 1970s animation. Gadget was also done by Synergy and Toshiba, like Alice above. I actually owned this as a kid. It did come out in America for Windows 3X, I believe. And it's got that Myst feel, weird machines, but there's an extra creep factor about this game. That Myst was never creepy. This one does get creepy. Now, goblins here. This reminds me. You can see we've got goblins 1, 2, and 3. What we don't have here is 4, and that's for good reason. It's not supported by ScummVM. But I have a feeling I will be asked about 5. 5 is an AGS game, and AGS has been added to ScummVM, the Adventure Game Studio. It also just came out a few months ago. I had to debate this for a while, but ultimately my decision was any game that is currently supported by ScummVM, but is still being commercially sold and is less than 5 years old, I had excluded from this pack. The artists and the developers who have created these games deserve a chance to make money off of them. I highly encourage you to buy these games if you're interested in them. Most of the time it's a few dollars. You know, there's a lot of Wintermute games out there and that people are selling for $1.99, $2.99. I've left them out if they were less than 5 years old. You know, we're talking about a few dollars here. As they get older, I will roll them into the pack. But for now, I think it's important to respect the integrity of these games and the intention of these developers to try to make some money off of their art. I hope everyone understands it. I know some of you won't, but it is more important to me. It's not preservation if the game just came out. And I try to focus on preservation with my projects. So we will give them time to get older. I've already got them. I've bought them myself, and I have them, and they're safe. So they won't be lost to time. But I will wait to include them in the pack until we are past a point that is reasonable for those that are trying to make some money off their art to do so. You can see we have the original Mystery House here. That was the first graphic adventure game ever released. Roberta Williams did it before she went on to make King's Quest. And there was a whole series made after that using the same engine. I don't believe she was involved in those, though. We've got the King's Quest series, of course. That's been around for a while. The Larry games and the Living Books games. You will see here as we come up, Might and Magic is here. That's a new one. Ironically, they advertise it as being added to 2.8.0, and then they turn the engine off by accident for release. So if you download the stable version, you can't actually play it. But we have it here running on an older version. We're going to keep on going. There's Myst, and you're going to got a lot of Myst-like games now these days. The Nancy Drew series, there's 6 of them have been added. They're fun little adventure games. The Neverhood is one of my all-time favorite adventures. Really cool. Nightlong is new. Obsidian is new. Very Myst-like game. I believe that was Windows 95, though, a little bit later. Definitely worth checking out. Primordia is a Wintermute game that is still available on Steam, I believe, so if you enjoy it, please go purchase it. Gorgeous graphics. I love the style of it. We got Quest for Infamy is here. This one I'm very happy to put in the pack, and I hope no one ever gives them another $1. These guys raised a Kickstarter. Steven Alexander, what's his name? Steven Alexander. I don't even. It goes by Blackthorn. He's a horrible person. Him and Mills, the guy who made it with, straight up scam artists. These guys took $80,000 from people on Kickstarter, including selling a bunch of physical editions. Didn't send out the physical box to anybody. Still haven't. They said back in 2015 the boxes were sitting in their kitchen. So it's not that they couldn't afford the boxes. They literally ordered it and then couldn't. Too busy. Blamed everything on it. Blamed, I had a daughter, I'm too busy. Blamed health issues on it. Blamed all kinds of things. But all these health issues are happening while he's off on vacations and whatever. There was another game that they raised money for that never even came out. These guys are a joke. So I'm happy to give away their game for free in the pack. They don't deserve another dollar from anybody. We've got... The Simon the Sorcerer series has been around a long time, but I bring it up because I've never played it before. And I'm really curious about it. I've never been one to say, hey, leave a comment down below. But please, if you've played it before, I'd love to hear what you think about it. If you had to rank it between all the different LucasArts, Sierra Games, Corandia, all these, the stuff, the classics that have already been in ScummVM for a long time, I've played all those. Where does it fit for you? Is it, in the middle? Is it one of your top games? A lower game? And hey, it doesn't have to be in the comments below. Come to my Discord and talk with me there directly about it. It's not about making comments. It's about... I'm interested in hearing what people have to say about it. If you're already a member of my Discord, please tell me what you think about Simon the Sorcerer. Is it worth playing? Should I play both of them? Is one of them better than the other? I'd love some feedback on that from the people that actually play this stuff and not from people that write articles specifically about adventure games, which are typically all you can find online. The Siberia games have both been added, but I don't recommend playing them from what I understand. These are the Macintosh versions, and they were downgraded to use Director to get them working for the Macintosh. The Windows version did not use Director, and from what I understand, it has more ambient animation, more sound. It's a better game overall to play it that way. So I own them on Windows. I think I'll go ahead and stick with them there. I think actually I bought them on Good Old Games as well. So that'll be my go-to place until ScummVM adds the Windows versions of those games. Ultima has been added. A couple of them. We've got 4, 6, and 8. For whatever reason, we only like even numbers here. There's Uncle Henry's Playhouse, another game made by the folks that did 7th Guest and 11th Hour. Also more of a kids version of that type of game. Vampire Diaries is a really odd entry. It's done by American Laser Games of all people. They usually do things like Mad Dog McCree, light gun shooters. So to see a game made by a light gun company in ScummVM is very unique to me. Then beyond that, you've got the SVM section. These are the games that you're probably not going to be able to get through. May not be able to play it all. You might get through. It's a toss-up. Have fun looking. There's a lot of stuff in here to go through. Some really good games like the Deja Vu series is in here from Mac Venture. I can't wait for that to be finished out and promoted to the full version. You've got really strange stuff in here, like Limbo of the Lost, a game that was pulled from shelves due to extreme plagiarism. Go look at a video about it. They stole assets from Quake, Thief, Unreal. Claim that originally the guy claimed he did it all himself, like made the whole game. Then when the plagiarism claims came out, he claimed he outsourced everything to other people, and they're the ones who lied and cheated and plagiarized. Either way, he's a piece of crap. He either, intended to take credit for other people's work and wasn't going to admit it was other people's work until it was plagiarized, or he did do it himself and then tried to blame it on other people that didn't exist. It does have a crazy ending, though. So if you've ever played through this game, again, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. I've never heard of anyone actually playing through the game before. So if you have, please tell me how your playthrough went. If you haven't, check out the end of the game on YouTube. I'll tell you, the only hint is it's a song. And it is about the nuttiest thing I've ever seen. Really far out there. Nosebound is a game that took me a while to find the demo for. It used to be on Steam. They've pulled it down. As of right now, their main website's gone down. They've closed up shop. It was supposed to be a game that was coming out soon. Again, very difficult to find this demo to include. For me, at least, it was hard to find it. I hope it's completed one day, though. It's a gorgeous looking game. I love the style. And then you got a few Ultima games down here. You got Part 1 and then the Worlds of Ultima games that are being worked on. There's some really strange 3D ones I mentioned before, like Total Eclipse. It's like a weird 3D flying game through a pyramid, but made of really basic polygons. Who knows? Within 10 years, I can't imagine what kind of games will be in ScummVM by that time. You know, are they going to start rolling in like the open source Red Alert engine, or OpenDK, the Dungeon Keeper, or DKFX, the Dungeon Keeper open source engine? At this point, it seems any open source engine is fair game for ScummVM. I appreciate everyone's patience while we worked on getting this release together. Huge thank you again to Python for his work on the pack, Timber for his scripts and his plugins that he has created for all the packs. Huge thank you to the rest of my staff on the Discord for all the work that they've helped with, whether it was directly on this pack or not. To the community that's on my Discord that gives amazing feedback, a lot of positivity there, and some really creative and usable feedback for these projects. A massive thank you to those of you who have been donating to the project. It's not cheap to preserve old games. I myself spent well over $10,000 of my own money in the first 10 years alone. I was spending well over $1,000 a year. It's just not cheap, you know, but you end up buying the same games multiple times because the discs aren't good. The shipping adds up. You're ordering from overseas sometimes. The donations really help offset those costs and help keep us moving forward, so that when random rare games pop up, we've got the funds to grab them without like, well, I don't know, let me see how much I have after I pay my bills this month. So I have a fund I keep separate, and all donations go to that fund. Any proceeds that we make off the Etsy store from selling the physical boxes for Exodus go to that fund, and that's how we afford to buy all these games to include them in the packs like this. And most of the time we're buying stuff from people that, you know, they know that it's rare. They've got a CD version of, you know, The Great Reading Adventure, and it hasn't popped up on eBay in the last 15 years. So they pop up with a starting bid of $99, you know, and it is what it is. If we want to get those games and preserve them, then we have to be prepared to spend money on it. So thank you to those of you who have donated and made it that much more possible for us to have funds for those types of things. With that, thank you very much for your time in this video. Thank you for everyone's support again. And I look forward to seeing you next week, where we will cover some really cool new backend changes that I'm making for the ScummVM next release, and how it works with the eXoDream project, which is our other bespoke emulation project that is growing so fast. We have eXoDream 3. Dream 3.0 is about to come out, so we'll match versions with them. And very shortly, we have our new eXoDream project coming out. So that'll be the next video. Thank you very much. Take care.